In what do not Ryan Stone? I see he's the most important guy in the world. Ryan Stone. Give a fuck about Ryan Stone. Me and him have gone back and forth. Blah blah.
Yeah.
Blah. Ryan Stone does not pass the 6 foot test. He's not even a man. So I don't give a fuck with Ryan Stone.
Morning, fellas. Happy New Year's. We're getting on there soon. Dude, it's going to be a great time. Finally, nobody has to listen to that damn George Michael song ever again. I'm so song effed for it this morning. Apparently, there's been some YouTube changes. Yeah, it doesn't even pass the 6 foot test. I figure with current events, might as well milk it one last time. All right. So a couple big surprises before we get started. We're doing an end of year Rule Zero show on, I think it's Rollo's channel. We usually do the end of year stuff with Rollo. It's got the biggest reach, so it gets the most amount of people. We got all-star cast. Everybody's invited, so we'll see who pops in. We'll see who can't. It's Wham, not George Michael solo. Whatever. I don't really care. I've never done this before. Somebody was like, you should do a book release thing. And I'm like, all right, how do you do that? And then I did some research, and the best I can tell is you're supposed to sit in a bookstore and read like a chapter of your book to the kids. So I'm like, all right, we'll try that out. I know we'll talk about that a bit. We'll get into some, honestly, I like going back to basics, the red pill stuff. There's been some super kind words from Rule Zero Dad and Nick August about their impressions of the book, which is nice. Not prompted at all. So when I see them, and I know for a fact, if I F the dog, these guys would hand me a new ass. So it's very nice. And so we'll kind of get into that too. In fact, let's just get those out of the way now. So here, Praxeology, Volume 1, Frame. Volume 2 is going to be Dread, which if you don't know, that's the process of learning to stop being taken for granted in a struggling or sex-deprived relationship. And let's go to review so far. And I'm not going to lie. Here. Bam. Get that out of the way. So honestly, it took me about a year and a half to get... I mean, it's technically more than just the one book. It's one book and half the second. But it sucks how he gets through it in like the first day. You know? But here. So he's about 2/3 done. And he's poking fun here. The isosceles pillar of the tetraangular something. It's called the tetrahedron of frame. Which is funny because it's not even a concept I came up with. This was a red-pilled concept probably 7 years ago from, was it Skortzang? Anyways, yeah, it's one of the guys. He's been around longer than me. He's been come and gone. You guys haven't seen or heard of him. He's been gone. But yeah, so right there. Easy, well-organized, 262 pages. So yeah, I'm not screwing around with some stupid 100-page pamphlet. No, you're getting a proper book. Anyways, if you can't get value from a distillation of what has worked consistently, then you may be hopeless. Physical, psychological, intellectual, and vision production guidance. Well done. This is original. Right there, that line, that is probably the most heartfelt Jack Murphy thing he could have said. I mean that in a good way, and I'm not poking fun. Because it's very hard to put something good together here that's not just rip and Rollo off. And I found, over the years, most people have one of two approaches. One, they just take Rollo stuff and they slap some red pill on it. Or two, one sec. Or two, they tell you how much of a dick Rollo is, right? Wando, sir, $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Will be Frame, Dread, and what else after? Well, I haven't considered a third book. Hold on a second here. JD, £5. Ryan doing a reading at his local bookstore. Gather round. Chapter 1. Hose hate shit. You guys are killing me. Absolutely killing me. And anyways, from below that, Nick August too, which granted, he's the editor, so he's going to have a vested interest in being nice about it. But I mean, my impression is he wouldn't have taken the editing job if he didn't like it, or he would have just canceled when I gave him the option. Concise guide to action. First book I'd recommend to a guy looking to make real changes. Side benefit provides a framework and a vocabulary that establishes basic concepts and makes discussing teaching the topic meaningful. Actually, that's the thing too. So there was like a side benefit that kind of came out as we were writing. I love how I can talk about it openly now because it's out. By the way, paperback. So I finally finished dealing with tech support, and the paperback should be out in possibly at the end of this cast. I'm going to do a check before. Yeah, he would lose the audience at Praxeology. Jesus. Tetrahedrons, cubes, Coach Love is shapes. Like I said, I can't take credit for the tetrahedron. But the concept is easy. It's just, 3 base things and then a thing on top of it, right? And then you kind of have to have the base things to get the top one going, which is why you see a lot of guys. You notice that where you see a lot of guys talking about saving the West and all these high and mighty ideals, but they're out of shape. They live with their parents. They're complete slobs. They don't even take care of themselves. And so there's obviously a need for a baseline to get things going. Okay. So there she is. So if you guys have never seen this is a program called Quark Express, which is something I learned back in the 90s when I was at school. And they're like, you're going to have to learn how to do some desktop publishing. Desktop publishing is like the graphic design, but for books. And I'm like, I'm never going to use this skill. And as a graphic designer, I never used it. Turns out I never needed it until I became a manosphere grifter with you guys. So, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to come back to this one. I'm going to read a chapter from it. I actually have an idea which one I want to do. Oops, get that out of there. Get that out of there. But no, we're taking this one seriously. So it's like a bunch of different things, which was interesting because a lot of the ideas, they're old. They're like 8 years old, 7, 6, 5. It was about 5 years ago that most of my research like hit that wall. So I really do think there's a need for guys that have been swapping notes for the last decade to make a note of things. Because in the last 5 years, there's just been nothing. I don't even want to say nothing new, nothing original, nothing great. It's just literally been nothing. The best I can find is guys who were around in the older time, still coming out with stuff every now and again, but it's always a bit like marginal. Mitch, $5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Saving the West, mental point of origin. That's everything except yourself. Yeah. And honestly, I was like, my biggest fear was to be compared to Mark Manson's models, Wando, €2, super. In the beginning, there was frame, and frame was good. It's a hard concept to explain. Like, honestly, in all of my time in the goofy sphere, nobody really explained it. And I think we even had like the space put on blast back in like 7 years ago. There was this guy, I reference him all the time in the mids watches, Jack 10 of Hearts, and myself used to fight about this. It's like, nobody's like, ask somebody to define dread, ask somebody to define frame, and you're going to get like 50 horse shit answers, right? So part of it was just for my sake. Like, okay, we got all these great concepts and everybody loves cheerleading the red pill, and let's try to define terms. And that was like deceptively hard. Yeah, I've been reading your newsletter for months now. You sold me on the book a long time ago, waiting for paperback. Actually, I tell you what, while we're doing this, I'll pull up the Kindle stats so I can see. It'll tell me when it's ready anyway. So in real time, I can tell you when the thing goes live. It should be pretty quick though. Oh dear. Oh dear. You guys are never going to guess what just happened this morning. Let me put that in there. And let me pin this message. And then let's go back to the other one. What did I see this morning? Oh, sweet Jesus. What is that option right there? What's that button? Is that button what I think it is? Is that the paperback button? Absolutely. Don't mind. I don't know if you can see on your screen. There's a little red screen here saying it can't be shipped to your location because I'm on the American one. I guess a lot of you are having issues where for some reason you were only able to buy the Kindle on the Canadian site, which a few of you have, but most people are good. So it's there. It's there. We're good. We're good. I'm going to tell you right now, though, and I'm going to run through the Quark thing while I do this with you, and you're going to see it makes all the difference, dude. Like, I understand why Rolo tells you to buy the paperback copies, you know what? I'm going to nerd out about that later. Nerd out about it later. Like, why do you guys need you guys should already know this. Like you were saying, did I already read it or no? Axe Spartan 92. Thank you. $5 super chat. Been reading your newsletter for months now. You sold me on the book a long time ago. Yeah, that was it. That was the point. Yes, There's been so many things that I see on the internet when it comes to like the Mano Swamp, as Rich Cooper puts it, that I just think are dog shit, like absolute dog shit. And then I was like, well, all these marketing things clearly work because people are doing it and there's guys making money. So why don't we take the dog shit and actually try to produce something of value for people, right? Yeah, see, that's weird, Tom. I don't get it. Like, I can grab it right now. But for some reason, it has to, like, you might be because you're seeing the American one. Here, let me pull up the Canadian one. Yeah. Okay, so I see what's happening. It's slowly filtering through right now because there's like multiple print shops. There's a print shop in the US, there's one in the UK, there's one in Canada. I don't know where the other ones are in Europe, but it's as the print shops get the data. So you have to wait for it to propagate through Amazon's AWS servers. Yeah, and Eric, no, it's not everybody who's not me is a loser. There's a lot of guys who are switched on and good, but I don't have to talk about them because they're just doing their thing. And I'm like, it's great. Go do your thing. Like, best example, Dr. Sean Smith. Love his work. I love the idea that he's bringing psychology to a male audience. I love that he's doing it properly. I love that he's not just treating men as if they're interchangeable with women. It's like, I want to cheerlead him so bad, but he's so like obtuse about, like, he's got like, I hate Rolo blinders on, so I just want to cheerlead him more, but it's hard. But anyways, for the most part, but either way, great work. Like, I would strongly say, like, he's on the sidebar even, so I got to technically do the reading on that one myself. But give it a bit. Then it's just got to promulgate through the service. The internet's not instant, apparently. But yeah, all this dog shit, like newsletters, great example. When everybody's first telling me about marketing funnels, I'm like, okay, so what do you do when you don't know what you're doing? You can do a lot of research, or you can just see what everybody else is doing and then copy that till you figure out something better. So I signed up for like AJ Cortez and Ed Lattimore, Tanner Guzzi, all these guys. Now, I'm not going to speak about like Ed or Tanner. Their stuff was good. It's fine. Whatever. The AJ's one, though, I read it and I only read one of his newsletters. And it was just him telling the story of going to Starbucks and ordering a bagel. I was like, Jesus. And then I started signing up to other ones and I noticed everybody had their like basic bitch comment. It was like literally reading somebody documenting a TikTok. And I was like, Jesus, is this what you guys are signing up for? And these guys are talking about their 16,000 person lists organically built. And I'm like, dude, we need a better classic grifter. Like, we really do. This is ridiculous. This is horseshit. At least at the end, in the back of the comics, when you used to get those stupid ads for sea monkeys, at least there was pictures to look at. Yeah. Well, yeah, TFA. I was kind of leaving that one out because I like Zach, but fair. Fair, Chesty. I'm like, okay, so what is it like? When you look at what is a newsletter, you're thinking, what is it supposed to be for? Like, what's it for you guys? Because in the end, I'm asking you to give me your time and read the stuff I have and hopefully find stuff that's interesting in it, right? So what am I going to tell you that's worth it for you? I don't think anybody approaches any online business from their perspective of like customer, which is fucking weird. And so I thought, well, usually if I'm at work, sometimes I'll have a coffee break and it's like 10, 15 minutes or, 10 minutes on the toilet or having a lunch hour, and at the end there, you just want to quietly sit there and read something and you don't want to think about it too much. So I'm like, okay, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of something that's not requiring of too much brain power. That's an ask that I think somebody's willing to give. And then what do you offer for it? And that's when I thought, well, hey, I'm doing the book anyway. Why don't I just give you guys this stuff? And then everybody was telling me like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. The book is your marketing end game or whatever. They're supposed to pay for it. It's all going to be behind the paywall. And I thought, why does it have to be behind a paywall? Because that's your best value. I'm like, so how do people know if you're any good if you're hiding anything of value behind a paywall? And nobody really answered. So I'm like, all right, let's try that. And I remember, who was it? It's one of the guys I was talking. It was like one of the few people when it comes to writing stuff that was actually good to talk to. Like Rolo was one. Another one is a guy you guys don't know. And he was going, what matters more than being able to write a book? It's that you got to be known. He's like, Hillary Clinton will outsell the greatest writer in history just because it's, who the fuck Hillary Clinton is. And I'm like, oh, that's fair enough. So I'm like, what's wrong with I take the book as I finish a piece, edit it down, whatever, and then I'll throw it into an email for you guys. I'm like, here, if you get this is what you're going to get. And I like the idea of not belittling you guys, right? I don't want you guys to come away from it thinking, oh, he promised me the world, and this is just some basic bitch book. And I'm like, I don't want to do that to you guys. I've been telling, this is actually, and in fairness, I kind of want to have a small admission here that the whole convention that shall not be named, traitor, and all that Hitsby stuff, partially my fault. I make no apologies for it because it was for a good reason, but partially my fault. 2018 or 2019, I can't remember which. Anyways, Mr. Bruno, Mr. Stir by the Vortex method of his coffee, was having like an argument with somebody over something about purity circles or what. Why do we always have to be like, who's the most pure red pill guy? Why are we doing this stuff? And then I kind of chimed in because I'm a big blowhard. I'm like, look, and I explained to him rule 0, right? Like, all you got, like, the only purity test that anybody's got here is be here for the benefit of men and sexual strategy, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And then next week, they kicked Rollo out of the He-Man Women Haters Club and started doing hit pieces about Nelly Bowles and all this shit. And I was like, fuck, I hope they didn't have like a meeting after I was done. They're like, dude, they want you to actually have to work for a living. And they're like, nah, man, we got a grift. Let's kick Rollo out. Well, John, I'm not going to turn into the modern J.K. Rowling. I really don't give a shit about the turf war. Yeah, so the convention debacle, that was kind of funny. As you can tell, this one's kind of a riff story. Honestly, for a lot of you guys, I've recognized you for years since the beginning, so yeah, I will die for the men on this stage. Yeah, I'm dying just listening to that. Anyway, so what was the whole point of that fucking ramble? I don't know. You guys enjoying your morning so far? I know it's New Year's coming, so you guys got plans. Me, I don't. After Christmas, I just lost the will to drink. I'm going to surprise you on the cast with the one thing I bought. That's, all right, so if you haven't seen this, it's an Irish pot still whiskey, Writer's Tears. I'm going to have a half a finger to celebrate the book release, and that was pretty much the only drinking I'm doing after Christmas until I feel like it again, which probably won't be until March. Which sucks now because I got a lot of counter and fridge space that's taken up, and I'm not going to touch it. Yeah. But it was funny because no matter how far back you go to any male space I've been in, it's always full of tards, and we're always arguing about nothing. And there's always the people that are least competent are the ones most likely to just destroy it. And it's just crazy. Like, no matter how, I think, Chesty, you put it this way, where you were saying, hang out in any niche for 2 to 3 years, and you'll have seen the cycle of how things work, and then it's just going to repeat that indefinitely. And it absolutely does. The 21 IQ convention. Like, I can't shit on it too much. Because, I mean, well, you were there as a speaker. I'm like, fair. Fair enough. Fair enough, sir. Yeah, so that was the 21 con thing. But that's the thing. It wasn't the first time it happened, which really helped me navigate it. And this is kind of, I like the idea of frame as a framework, because had I had this book back when I was me from 2012, 2013, 2014, I would have had better tools to handle it, you know? Which the second time around was better. But before that, there was the big red pill split, which that one was, I'm not even sure why it happened. There was just some nonsense for no reason. And then the TRP Red, that was when, what's his name? Red Pill School tried to make an own off-site version of the Reddit subreddit. And then there was this one guy, Daniel, who kept trying to, like, I want to be the most popular guy in here. But all he did know how to do was, like, piss people off and write, you know, cuss a lot in his writing. So that way everybody be like, oh, he's speaking truth to power. It's like, no, he's just swearing and calling everybody a cuck. And then stealing his best Evola lines, like, whatever. But then his plan was to be the most popular guy in here. I got to shit all over the walls so that anybody who's better than me gets to leave. And everybody who was better than him left. As much as everybody's like, feminism will destroy the... Like, no, dude. Stupid men will destroy a man's space better than any woman ever could. Thirsty men and antisocial narcissists are the worst villain for any male space. Hands down, 100%. Just remember that when you're on your free speech thing, because that was the whole reason it even allowed to happen, is because Red Pill School was going hardcore... free speech above all. But then that was the problem, is that with no gatekeeping and all like free speech above all, everybody else is like, well, I'm going to freely tell you to go fuck yourself and I'm out of here. Carl left, I left, everybody left. All the good writers just stopped writing. It was kind of annoying. But, you know, Evola Boy got the control of the thing. So that was the exact same thing. And it's kind of funny because that Daniel guy and Anthony Johnson didn't like each other, but they were literally the same guy. And then before that, here's another funny one too. There was this big beef that this guy, the Family Alpha, you guys may know him as Zach Small, if you see him on Twitter, started with his I Would Do It Again. And he went into the Married Red Pill and he wrote this thing that, now that I've seen everything that happened in my life and blah, like all the red pill stuff you guys know about. And he's like, if I had to go back and marry my girl again, I'd do it for sure. Marriage is great. Kids are great. And holy fuck, he stung the hornet's nest there. All the red pill guys came in. It's like, I knew you married red pill guys were cucks. You're just trads. And then all them were like, dude, you're just an angry child. Like, get out of here. Men are doing work. And then the red pill women came in and they were like just screeching. And it was just a nonsense mess of a thing. And I remember Jack Ten Hearts went in there. He's like, I could sit here and argue about this and argue about this. I'm going to go brush my teeth because at the end of all this stuff, the arguments won't be settled, but I'll have some gleaming pearly whites. And I was like, fair enough. And that was kind of like one of the best moments, I think, in all of like any Manosphere red pill beef I've ever seen, where the guy's like, it was floss. I'm just going to go floss. Fuck it. And I was like, that's the wisest thing I've ever heard from a guy. And absolutely it's true. Like all this beef never matters. The new one now with, what's his face? The guy from the advertisement earlier where he's getting arrested and everybody's like arguing about human trafficking all of a sudden. It's like, it's funny you didn't care about human trafficking until it was trending on the front page. I don't know what to tell you on that one. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Just laugh, make some memes. Like everybody thinks when I'm just shitposting with the memes, it's, oh, he's just trying to get our attention. Like there's some wisdom to the madness, sir. Like I want to teach you guys irreverence. Irreverence is one of the better skills to have. And it's really good to have because you'll find that because there's no danger in life, that we have a really fucked up sense of risk and of danger. Like we're terrified if terrorists fly a plane into a building that'll kill 3,000 rich Americans from New York. But we don't even care that like obesity is killing 10 times the amount of that. And we're perfectly okay with cars killing 10 times the amount of that per year. Same thing with a certain unknown virus of not Chinese origins. Oh my God, it's got this crazy death rate. But the first thing I did, I went and looked up disease and sickness stats. Which diseases kill the most people a year? Tuberculosis, 10 times as deadly as the coronavirus. 10 times as deadly. And that's every year. So peak COVID was a 10th as bad as average tuberculosis. Are we freaking out and closing the country over tuberculosis? No. And that's when you realize it's just tulip mania. Everybody's panicking. And so part of it, again, the whole point of Frame is how do you navigate this stuff? Because we're in a new world. We are. And it's hard because there's nobody to go to. You can't. Anybody who's older than you and has experience used to be the people you get advice from. But, the boomers out there don't know what the internet is. They don't know how social media works. They don't know the information economy. And they don't know Tinder or Hinge or any of that stuff or online dating or OnlyFans. So they have no concept of how to navigate all that new stuff. So the people older than you, I'm not saying they're useless. I'm just saying there's a whole bunch of new stuff that they don't know. So you go to the people that are younger than you then, because they know OnlyFans, they know Tinder, they know Hinge, they know all of this stuff. The problem is they don't have any of that basic practical wisdom that can help you navigate stuff, learning how just not to care about stupid stuff that doesn't affect you, right? So people older than you aren't adapted. People younger than you don't know. And so there's really nobody out there to help you, even if they wanted to, and they don't. Most people don't care about you at all, nor should they. What reason do they have? This is one of those big reasons I hate the MRAs where they're dude, they need to love you because you're special. And I'm like, are you? Are you special? Not really. You're kind of just an idiot. And everybody's an idiot, and that's okay. You ain't shit, and that's okay. That's why I say stuff like that. And then once you realize that, you're like, okay, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, you kind of have to adapt. How do you adapt? And I was telling the story on the Minecraft stream, I think I did on Wednesday, or maybe it was Friday. And it was a lesson I learned from the military, where my original trade was, and forgive me if you've heard the story before, I'm going to tell it again, where there used to be signalmen and radio operators, SIGs and RADOPS. Signalmen's had the yeoman, the snack was the chief head of department down below. And it was like they were very complex trades. They had a lot of information, and then they combined them together in the late 90s. And then once we got IT equipment on board, they started adding that. So there's like 3 jobs mixed into one for naval communicators, is my profession. And it turns out it's just impossible. People used to have to kind of specialize, like ad hoc specialize in one or the other. So generally speaking, like you couldn't know everything in the trade. So what do you do in a job where you don't know everything and you can't know everything? And then the idea was, well, you got to develop a different skill. Instead of being that guy who's the greatest signalman, he's able to like advise the captain on everything. He knows all the hoist, all the communication stuff, deals with traffic, handles boarding, communications, all that stuff. You deal with the other, or do you become the guy who's like really good in the patch panels down below, dealing with crypto, all that stuff? It's like, no, your skill is to learn how to learn as quickly and accurately as possible. So that was it. And that was my skill. It's like, I didn't know what's the retrofit frequency for Djibouti in Africa. You're like, I don't fucking know. But I do know that that's like a NATO allied country. It's from Europe. It's like a European radio station, technically. So I know I go to this book and this book and this book. And then you go and you look up the information. You know exactly how to find it. You get it quickly. You get it quickly and you get it accurately. And then I found, and as we're talking to guys, like it's not just me that comes up with this. Lawyers, same thing. The law is so expansive. So every lawyer kind of has to specialize in something. Like I'm just bankruptcy law. I'm just family law. I'm just criminal law. But every single lawyer will tell you, and this is kind of why like Chesty, like I don't hold it against him. He's like, oh, I finished his book in like 5 hours. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Like if anybody should be able to speed read it, it's probably him. But yeah, that's his skill. If I need to learn some legal concept, I know how to find it faster than anybody else and get it done accurately. And so lawyers were finding this, military guys were finding this, doctors, same thing. The human body's amazingly complicated. And you get all these guys together in this space, right? Military, doctor, lawyer, police officer, all the different male jobs that are still wrong. They're still out there. And then everybody kind of realized as a convergent piece of evidence that, yeah, the true skill in 2022 isn't knowing everything. It's not having all the answers. It's knowing how to learn faster than the other guy. And this is why the concept that I've talked to you guys about a lot. And I do mention it fairly thoroughly in the book, OODA loops, observe, orient, decide, act. It's kind of a nice structure for it. And so, yeah, you don't need to learn like what to think. And this is where I think, this is why I call all the content creators and influencers on Twitter and YouTube a fucking moron, because it's not needing to know what to think. It's learning how to think in 2022. And so that's where the book kind of came from. Learning how to think. Like, for example, and here, I'm going to take a break here and we're going to read a section of it. I think that's what you're supposed to do. I know exactly what I'm looking for. Let me just find it. There she is. So before I start, a fun little story. There has been a bunch of different characters over the length of time of the subreddit and that were very interesting. S-Curve Much, Rule Zero Dad, myself, the Family Alpha, Jack 10 of Hearts, Scorch Sang, Yui McGill, Bogey D6. There's like 50 to 100 names that you guys have never heard of that have contributed more than you'll ever know. This one guy, my absolute favorite, came into the Married Red Pill, and his name was Fuck Married Red Pill. I was like, that's awesome. And the best part was he was switched on. He knew exactly what to do. He knew what he was doing. It was no bullshit. He fucking hated the space. He's actually my inspiration to hate your audience a little bit, because he was probably one of my favorite posters, and he hated everything about the space, but he hated guys fucking up from their like unforced errors more than anything. So we're going to quickly do an ad here, and then we're going to get to that. Oh yeah, that's the one.
You want to tell me why the majority of people that voted yes, I can be submissive are men?
Just want to talk a little bit about why I love women.
And the majority that said no are women? I would love y'all to ponder that for a fucking second.
I love how they always make sure, by and large, they shower the feminine energy that girls put out. It's magnetic.
You think I can be submissive?
I adore it.
I'm just going to let that simmer on its own. Anyways. So here, for an excerpt, we're going to go with, it's not your job to keep the peace. I love this place. The space most of this book's research was from was called the Married Red Pill, or MRP for short. The guy had gotten his act together and was continually frustrated at people who would not get their act together, and were driven to write constantly about how other men can become better. The Dunning-Kruger effect mixed with too much free time. So, he gave himself the pseudonym Fuck MRP. He had some of the greatest wisdom. The name was the cherry on top. Too many guys read about boundaries and assertiveness and still think they have to keep the peace. They're using these assertive tools as wrapping paper with the same shitty box they came with. Wife get mad? Well, better use the some tools and keep the peace. Do something, what'd I say? Do something selfish? Well, I know better use these tools and keep the peace. She says I screwed up. Well, I didn't, but I can handle this. I'll manipulate her emotions and I can keep the peace. It's not your job to keep the peace. Nothing changes while you avoid confrontation. Choose your battles, but know, when you change your behavior to avoid her emotions, she's controlling you. Never argue with her. She's not interested in solutions. Make your statement about the issue, and broken record if you have to, or if you need be. Do not explain yourself, your logic, or anything. You're only offering her more ammunition. Be happy even when she's mad. Ignore her silent treatment. Talk to her as if you don't notice. Tease her and see her how childish that shit is, so you never behave that way again. You don't have to answer every question. Not everything needs a response. Take time to choose your words. Let her wait or wonder. Never deny your emotions. She knows when you're mad. Own it. Just don't direct it at her. You're allowed to be angry. Be comfortable making her uncomfortable. Do not rush to fix things. Do not initiate apologies when she should be making. Your time is what she wants most from you. This is the best thing you could take away in response to bad behavior. Her only weapon is your fear of what she'll do. It's not your job to keep the peace. I like that one.
You want to tell me why the
get out of
majority
there.
of people...
Now we already did that. I like that one. Thank you very much, Wine More Please. Speaking of old as balls content creators that have done more of the space than you'll ever recognize, I like that one. It's actually a common error. Like when you start teaching guys about boundary enforcement, about covert contracts and that, one of the first things I notice is that every time their girl gets emotional, they're so awkward with it that the guy will... She's yelling at me, so I'm just fogging, and I'm agreeing to amplify, but she's just getting madder. What do I do about it? And like the thought never occurs to him at first, like telling her to fuck off. It's like, what do you mean? Well, you know, remember the assertive Bill of Rights where you're allowed to be emotional or whatever? It's mostly business, Colleen. Like there's a couple stories, but it's not going to be like Fuck Files where it's me telling some sailor stories in amidst wisdom. For the most part, it's 8 to 10 years of guys like Wine More Please, guys like Rule Zero Dad, guys who like physically worked on actionable things, like actual things in their life. None of this like thinking of in high in the sky, like, oh, this value is great. No, it's like, I had a problem to solve. This is how I solved it. All those guys, stuff put together. Actually, that is true. I do have the story about Frenchie, about virtue. Who's Rule Zero Dad? Well, he's right above you in the chat. He's, how best to describe you? A lawyer from the Midwest. He's basically James Spader. He's been around for longer than me. He's smarter than me. He's put in just as much work, if not more than me in this space. And he's been around for long enough that he's seen every piece of bullshit ever. He's probably the smartest guy that nobody's ever heard of. He and Wine More Please both. So it's, and then the best part, where was I going on this? I lost my train of thought. Get up the likes, you filthy animals. Yeah. Oh, that. So they're still uncomfortable with conflict. They're still uncomfortable with their wife's emotions. And so they treat fogging, agree and amplify, or amuse mastery as if it's like a tool to get her to calm the fuck down. And, you know, you read the assertive Bill of Rights, and one of the things is like, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to have an emotional response to something. You know, temper it so you don't make things worse. You want to always focus on being deliberate with your actions, even when they're emotional. Girls are the same way. It's like one of those freeing statements for a guy when he keeps trying to keep the peace with his wife and using all these red pill tools for that, where you realize, she's allowed to be angry, right? You're like, what do you mean? Well, she's pissed. Yeah, but I didn't do anything. Yeah, but she doesn't know that. She feels that you did. And telling her that her feelings aren't real is like her telling you the earth is flat. Sorry, flat earthers, it's not. Her telling you the earth is flat, you're going to die on that hill. So just remember that. And this is the whole point of fogging. And that's why guys, and then when they finally click, they're like, oh, I've been using fogging wrong this whole time. It's like, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's like, that's not technically fogging. Like it can be, but fogging is, you didn't do the dishes. You were busy. You have whatever your reasons are. It doesn't even matter. Your reasons are yours. It was deliberate. It's not accidental. That's the key point. She gets mad because you didn't do the dishes. Yeah, I'd be pissed too if I was you. I mean, you told me to do the dishes. You said the dishes need to be done. You mentioned it 3 times. Fuck, I would be mad if I had to do that to you. But in your heart, like, dude, I was getting to him. Unfortunately, the kid was choking on a chicken bone. I had to get it. But you're not explaining yourself. You don't need her to be okay with your reasons. You don't need her to buy in. You don't need her to think the right things. You just need her to comply. And in this case, yeah, they're getting done when I get them done. And in a way, this actually helps with guys that don't like conflict. It's almost one of those things that you have to be comfortable with conflict, and then conflict goes away. You know how that Atlas saying is? Like, I asked Zeus not for a lighter load, but for stronger shoulders. It's kind of like that. And the girl tests it all the time. They always test it because they call this emotional intelligence, but I think it's ridiculous. I just call it social calibration, which it makes much more sense because social calibration is a thing. It's measurable, and you can see what success is. Emotional intelligence is some goofy feel-good measure that has to do with ayahuasca or some shit, which I get it. That's how girls think. That's fine, but I'm not a girl, and I'm not talking to girls, and this isn't information for girls. Although you can probably get a lot of benefit from it. There's been a lot of girls who have kind of like stealthily snuck into the red pill, learned like, oh, this is how guys think, okay, and they literally look at this as like a how to understand men guide, all this red pill stuff, and they usually move on. Dude, and they knew well. Like there's Claire and Darla. I've talked about them before. They were back in like the 8 years ago days. Husband cheated on the one, or fiance cheated on the one, and the other one was like the husband turned into a deadbeat stay-at-home dad and had to get paid alimony. And they basically took this stuff. One ended up marrying a firefighter and having a great old time. The other one got together with another rich Midwest waspy dude and had fun. I don't know what they ended up doing. Probably a kid or whatever. And so there is benefit, but you can't cater to women because everybody who caters to women with this stuff always panders. Women love to be pandered. They love compliments. They like being told they're right. They like being told nothing's their fault. And that's the problem. Well, I mean, noticeable girls in the red pill space are mentally unwell. I will put that. As soon as you start getting into that pick-me girl territory, that's where there's always something weird. But yeah, back to conflict. Yeah, once you embrace the conflict de-escalates. Yeah, you know why? It's because the girls, they constantly like these are all shit tests, and you don't think of them that way. I thought shit tests would be if she's attracted to you and wants to confirm it, like subconsciously. Like yes, but the way it happens is always so subtle that you might not even notice. Like if a girl is frustrated and yelling at you, she's like, I'm yelling at him because emotionally I feel that he's a man-child that's not doing any work and he makes me feel disrespected and I have to clean up after him and all this shit, right? By arguing with her, you're only proving that emotion is valid. Proving that emotion is valid. And so that way, the more you argue with her, the more she's convinced that she's right. So by embracing this conflict, and you're telling her, yeah, I can totally see that. But then, first thought through a girl's head is something to the effect of like, oh, maybe I'm being crazy. They start self-gaslighting themselves, which that's what girls do. They always, once their emotions are either, validated or invalidated, but always like seriously considered, and then they have the communication, that's what all the shit tests are, then they process it. In this case, she's yelling at you, she feels mad, you're like, you should feel mad. And she's like, okay, so that was real. But girls also hate conflict. They have conflict, but they hate conflict. There's this weird dichotomy. So maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe there was a reason he did that. And and if they like you, they start making excuses for what they consider your bad behavior. It's not bad behavior. It's your behavior. But they can do what they want. And so then, yeah. And that's how this process works. So as a guy, you're okay with the conflict. You let them know, hey, you're allowed to be. You could be mad at me if you want. I'm going to do this on my timetable and to my standard. And if you want it any better, dish rags over there, Rumblefish, $10 super chat. Thank you very, sir. Book arriving January 5th. Ooh, one day before the event. Always thought Ryan was the best and most trusted communicator of these concepts. I've been looking forward to this book since his Florida speech. Holy shit, dude. That's way the far back. I think I was, I wasn't. I was in corporate at the time. I was out of the military, but Jesus. The Florida speech. The speech that rocked the world. Cannot thank this group enough. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the kind words. Like I said, I want to say just thank you for getting the book, and I hope you enjoy it, but I know you'll enjoy it. My whole intent from all of this stuff has always been about scalability. Ask you guys for $1 of income and deliver you guys $5 of value. That's been my approach since the entire thing. Well, it's not that I've been planning the book that long. The book has only been, the planning started right after Fuck Files, a month after. And I got about a third of the way through it, and then I realized I needed a lot more research. And so there was about 6 to 9 months of research, and then the book writing picked up again, and then that was about, 6-7 months ago, and that's where the book went in. But then 3 months into that, I realized the book was just way too big. It was this book is 65,000 words, which is about the size of a normal book. It's enough that it's long enough that you can keep the concepts in your head all together as you're reading it. Because if you get a book that's too long, by the time you get to the end, you forgot about the beginning, right? So you want to keep things, the concept tighter. And if it's too expansive, then you break it down. If there's not enough information, then you expand it. So I got to about 120 words, and I'm like, this is way too big. This is not going to work. So I split it up into 2 parts. It was originally supposed to be a book on dread game. The idea of how do you handle, how do you bring back your dignity in a sexless marriage or a sexless relationship, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to split this up. How do you split it up? And I'm like, well, you can't just start with, I thought about it. If you're going to do dread, what do you start with? And I realized dread doesn't work unless you have a guy with frame. He has his shit together. He understands deliberate action. The passive dread stuff would be a lot of frame building. So I'm like, why don't I split it up to passive dread and active dread? And then passive dread for the most part was frame. Getting building a frame. And that was based on the Jack 10 of Hearts breakdown of what do we talk about when we talk about dread, which I don't think I've done a mids watch on it yet, but I will. It's one of the last ones where he talks about the scoreboard. The idea is that most guys who came there had three general phases, and they don't always start at the first one, but they will go through the phases in order. The first one is they have to build a frame. And from the scoreboard's perspective, it's their wife is always putting points up on the board and you can never do anything right and nothing works out and she's winning and I can't stop losing to this woman. So you build a frame. And then the next stop, you get out of her frame. And so once you're out of your woman's frame, you start realizing, you start putting points up on the scoreboard yourself. Now it's a competition between you two. And then you realize you're fighting with a 120-pound, mother of 2. And you're like, oh, what the fuck am I doing? And that's when it's building your own frame. When you start having your own purposeful direction, your own vision with life, and you have the basics, fundamental skills so that you're not deluding yourself, and that's a proper way ahead. And then from there, it's putting your girl into your frame, bringing her into your frame where she starts to adopt to you. And so from those 3 things, kind of the concept of frame and then dread being split off made the most sense. So that's why book 3 will probably be a lot easier because there's a lot of the groundwork for it already. It's on its second draft. I'm not looking at it until after I finish the audiobook. And to be fair, I kind of hate writing right now, so I'm going to stop for a while anyway. Fish, I'll get to that one in a minute. Remind me later on. Well, I'll put it this. I'll say this though. When you're talking about you want to see the snot bubbles, the fact that you want to see the snot bubbles is why you're never going to see the main event. Honestly, and that's the part I love about this stuff the best is when you see a guy and it clicks. There's 2 specific things about a guy becoming red pilled that always cheer me up. The first one is when he hears all the platitudes, he hears all the strategies, all the things like AWOLT and whatever. Yeah, girls don't love you the way in the cardinal rule of relationships, and they repeat it well. But there'll be a point where a guy actually understands it and has a practical use for it in his life. And then he'll come back and report about it dude, I just found out. And then he'll describe, let's just use the cardinal rule of relationships. The one who wants the other one the least has the most power. And they can repeat that mantra all day. But then they'll like, it's great, dudes. It's weird. As soon as I stopped like caring about if the relationship was good or not, I'm basically checked out. All of a sudden my wife started acting better. It was the weirdest thing. And I'm like, I mean, like the cardinal rule of relationships. You're like, and then they'll always say like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. And I love that moment. It's like literally where you realize that most people are just treating this as like a series of slogans. And then the guy physically like just wants a guy who just gets it. Now he just gets it. That's the first one. The second one is technically a main event, which I guess Chesty's put it really good here. The red pill concept of a main event. A main event sometimes, not always, but sometimes comes at the end of a process of a guy running dread. Running dread, using dread. I don't know what proper verb to throw in there, but we'll get there. That's for book 3. And the idea of dread is, depending on how you look at it, it's men taking women's strategies and adopting it to male sensibilities. So in this case, you know how women have monkey branching? Like if they want to leave a man, they'll always try to find a new man. And then once they got him secured, then they leave. Like, you don't let go of the branch to grab a new one. Well, for men, it's the same thing. It's the idea that your wife isn't sleeping with you, your girlfriend won't sleep with you, you're sexually frustrated, you have some things to work on, but you have a great sparring partner in front of you. So you do all the work that you have to do. Like if you can game this girl, you can game any girl. So that by the time you're ready, you can just ditch her and grab some 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 25-year-old, whatever it is. But male sensibilities, we're the romantics, right? So we don't just do monkey branching, we do it, but with an olive branch. With the kind of like, there's like this underlying assumption, and I don't want to word it as a covert contract. It's not a covert expectation that she will step up. That if the wife starts acting right, if she starts treating you better and all this stuff, that you'll seriously consider taking her back and starting over again, right? Assuming that whatever she did to get you to that point isn't so egregious that you're just checked out. So the main event comes at the end of this process. Usually the guy is working on his frame. He's building his stuff. He's starting to see, like she's starting to see pre-selection. Other women are paying attention to him at various levels of dread. Sometimes it's just like getting in shape is enough. Other times it's like they literally have to have a point where like one of their friends are like, dude, if you don't want your husband, I'll take him. Or the point where they like catch one of the girls that like you're at your family or whatever, and the waitress like slips you her phone number saying, hey, call me. I'll meet you in the coat closet later or something. It's just an example, but. And a girl starts to have a moment where they stop thinking about all the bullshit that made them fall out of love with you or out of lust with you. And then they start switching over to that fight or flight mode where it's like, oh, geez, I'm going to lose this guy. And girls hate rejection. And nothing will hurt a girl more than being rejected by what she would consider her hypergamous best option, right? Like, I'm going to lose a top tier guy because I'm a cunt. And they don't know how to win it back. Girls have no game. I don't know if they ever did, but they definitely don't today. And so there's this panic. It's like, I'm going to lose this top tier guy that I've got, and I don't know how to win him back. And the main event is, because girls will try subtle things. They'll try bringing you back into your hole, sabotaging your progress. They'll try, comfort tests. They'll maybe try, I'll just phone in some duty sex. That'll do it. None of this stuff is working. And then once a girl switches to direct language, it's seen as like the final stop. That's when she's all out of options. And that's what the main event is. The mother of all comfort tests. It's like, dude, I don't want to lose you. I'm sexually attracted to you. My fear of missing out is kicking into overdrive. The idea of getting rejected and abandoned. And that's why I say, like, when you get a real main event, it's not your girl bitching at you. It's literal snot bubbles. It's not anger. It's like fear, if nothing else. And the reason I said earlier to, what's his name? Fishman, where you like, I want to see the snot bubbles. If you're looking at it like a revenge fantasy, you're never going to get it. Because then you're still treating your woman as your adversary. And that whole dynamic turns it into an adversarial one. And that's why you just get bitchier behavior and angrier people. It's literally, you're checked out, like indifferent. You can stay or you can go. She can sleep with you or she can not. You can divorce and be cool with it, or you can stay together and be happy. It's like, you're fine with any of the solutions because you've done all the work to get you where you want to be. And you're there. And now it's just a matter of just going through the motions and letting the plan play out as it does. So from that indifference, she realizes, I can't manipulate him. I can't fight with him. I can't cry to him. And it's just like pure desperation. And that's why you're getting the snot bubbles. It's like a visceral emotional reaction. It's almost like the girl's version of getting zeroed out, And the reason I say you can't be like, I want that revenge fantasy. Give me the snot bubbles, you bitch. That'll teach you. Is that you're not competing. It's that third step of the scoreboard. It's you realize there's just no score being kept. There's just you and your happiness, and then her, and she can come in there if it's happy, and she can leave if it's not. And so by the time you see the snot bubbles, guys are always caught by surprise because you're not looking for it anymore. You're not caring if it happens, and that's when it happens. And that's why you'll never see it coming. By definition, you can't. And then when it happens, you got to make that choice. You either, all right, well, I mean, give it a shot. If you really want to try, okay, I'll put you on a trial period. Let's see if this is actually going to work, or you're just crying. Or you could be like, you had your chance. And it goes either way. Nobody says you have to take your wife back. If she's been frigid to you for 3 years and you not putting up with it, and then she finally decides, hey, dude, you know what would be great? Daily blowjobs. And you're just like, it's too late. It's a choice you get to make. So most guys will be like, all right, let's give it a shot. And then as long as she acts right, everything goes well. But the plans don't quite change until she proves it, right? But yeah, it's always like indifference. And that's my second thing I really enjoy, because I'll see guys describe the main event. Like when they haven't had the main event, it always sounds like this intense Thunderdome battle between me and Thottery. And you're like, yeah. But when it actually happens, the guy's just like, it's a throwaway line, and him like, yeah, I was working on my car in the garage, and the girl came in. We had this huge fight. She started throwing snot bubbles out. It was the weirdest thing. But then, gave her a hug, and then she blew me right there on top of the car. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. And you're like, that's a main event you just passed, sir. Congratulations. He goes, that's a main event? It's like, yeah, I see what you mean now. Yeah, snot bubbles. They always have snot bubbles. Hats and Clogs, 4334. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Ooh, woo, purple hearts. Yeah, breaking news. Men kind of sort of like their girlfriends and wives. You know what? Let's take a break here. Let's do something funny. Oh, let's do that. Let's do yeah.
We know these videos really prey on vulnerable young men who have not had many experiences in dating.
I actually am kind of like, thank you, John Watts. That's out of all the non-super chatted comments. Can we all acknowledge how cool it is that Ryan can talk to himself for an hour and not sound retarded or get boring? Do you know the trick to that, by the way? I learned this trick. Is to have something of depth to talk about. And this is what I realize most content creators suck with, is that they just fill the air with noise. They don't know what they're talking about. Gaming stuff is pretty good because usually just describing what you're doing in the game will always have a process behind it. But yeah, for the red pill stuff, and even some people I watch their content and I'm like, dude, you're just using words to fill the space, aren't you? Like, I mean, if it works, it works. I'm not here to judge. But yeah, even this, like, I'm off the cuff. There's no script, there's no talking points, nothing. This one was just me coming in. It's like, you know what? We're going to do a book release party. We're going to read a section or two and call it. But I know what I'm talking about. And there's like actual stuff here to talk about. And that makes it so much easier. So remember that if you're ever watching a content creator and they're just running their mouth, yeah, they're probably just have nothing to do. They're just some basic bitch and they're filling their mouth with mouth noises. Let me see here. I was going to do one more, but I don't want a long one. Oh, Why You're Lost. Of course I'm going to do Why You're Lost. This is probably one of my favorite things altogether in the red pill. Where is it? Get out of the way, sir. Why don't you go in the right spot? All right, where is it? The quirk is always funny that way, where it doesn't quite show where I have to go. No nutrition, sabotage. Actually, I guess I can do a search. Yeah, it's funny. Everybody else, I think, was it Rolo uses Adobe Premiere, or what's the other one? I don't remember. But the point is, it's like that's the software everybody uses. But I have like a visceral hatred for Adobe, so I'm sticking with Quark Express, which is like the equivalent of like a hipster. It's the desktop publishing equivalent of a hipster who still writes his books on a fucking typewriter, you know? All right, so let's go back to the thing. Why You're Lost. Oh, let's even that up. This one is taken from, I want to say it was Huey McGill that wrote this, and it's kind of why you always hear Chesty say stuff like, Bal did nothing wrong. Because everybody loves to talk about red pill like it's an ideology or philosophy, and for the most part it's not. It's a praxeology. Leo Stone, £1.79 super chat. The Kindle version isn't available in the UK. It will be. It's just because like most of the time people kind of leave it on waiting for a while. Like it'll get there. It just takes a minute. I don't know. The AWS servers are kind of weird that way. Anyways, why you're lost. And it's about as close as you get to a philosophical component of the red pill. But I don't like it as a starting point for guys, because if guys start looking at it like a philosophy, then they miss the praxeology of it, and they just start like mentally masturbating. And so it's kind of, I like to treat it as like a 201 concept, not 101. So why you're lost. Most men spend their days struggling to evade three questions, the answers to which underline a man's every thought, feeling, and action, whether it be consciously or unconsciously. Where am I? How do I know it? And what should I do? By the time they're old enough to understand these questions, men believe that they know the answers. Where am I? New York City. How do I know it? It's self-evident. And what should I do? And here, they are not too sure. But the usual answer is what everybody else does. The only trouble seems to be that they are not very active, not very confident, not very happy, and they experience, at times, a causeless fear and undefined guilt of which they cannot explain or get rid of. They have never discovered the fact that the trouble comes from three unanswered questions, and there's only one science that can answer them: philosophy, which, and that's Ayn Rand speaking to Military Academy at West Point. So, lost boys seeking direction are everywhere. They are the guys asking the third question, and some of them are just getting started. I know, I need to live for me, but somebody needs to tell me how to do that. Others, further along. I've transformed. I'm charming, I'm good looking, I'm in shape, but I'm bored. I need something to do next, another challenge to conquer. Please give it to me. You see the former latching onto platitudes, lists, and arbitrary tasks for self-improvement. Avoid soy, eat meat, don't drink, vote for X, run a side hustle, do what I did, be like me, it worked for me. Random categorical imperatives. Categorical imperatives are statements of value deemed to be good because somebody said they're good, without exception or nuance. Follow the rules and you become an Ubermensch. This is men acting like the orphan child, latching onto whatever father figure is trending. The king is dead, long live the king. We men love to think of ourselves as individualists while desperately conforming to somebody else's program. See how silly that is? Fulfilling somebody else's checklist doesn't make you any better, any more than doing more chores makes your wife more comfortable and willing to sleep with you. Pick goals and accomplish them. They don't have to be perfect goals. They don't have to be the right goals. They only have to be the right goals for you at the time. When you're done with them, move on to something else. If they aren't helpful anymore, drop them. No one can tell you what matters. Nietzsche was right. Meaning is dead. So, the good news. When nothing matters, the only thing that will matter is what you decide on. There's almost nothing all men agree on as being universally good. Financial freedom, sexual abundance, physical fitness are the three we usually agree on to a point. Now, once these are achieved, men get past all of their anger from bitchy wives, from overbearing bosses, bullying peers, and social stigma. They get bored. They don't have any more villains to overcome, so they remain just as lost. Just like the Ronin, they serve no lord. Stoicism, it's kicking the can down the road. At some point, you have to choose. Choose what? Rational egoism. Nietzsche called it master morality. Francois Duc de la Rochefoucauld called it virtue. Marcus Aurelius called it self-love. How best can we put this into practice? Well, ask yourself, what would you do with your life if everybody you depended on and who depended on you died tomorrow? Now go do that. Aspire to be that. You were not put on this earth to light yourself on fire to keep others warm, nor will anybody reward you for your sacrifice. They won't even acknowledge it was a sacrifice at all. It was just simply what was expected of you. And if you think being the best plow horse for a lifetime will get you that nice warm stable as a reward at the end, you're in for a rude awakening. Horses that no longer plow are sent to the glue factory. Now, there are a surprisingly large amount of guys out there who work at reconciling frame with their religion. So if you think you could sneak your prior beliefs into the back door by desperately searching the Bible, the Quran, or your academic textbooks for some verses to force fit into this new frame, you are doomed to outright either contradict their teachings or slink back into your previous misery by adhering to them. I have no stake in your beliefs. You can be as rational or as irrational as you want, except that your life will be unnecessarily volatile. Peace one day, chaos the next. Anyways, everything that goes right is just what's expected of you. Everything that goes wrong is your fault. If that's the deal, everything on you is on you anyways, so you might as well deliberately and energetically live your life instead of letting life happen to you. So men tend to prefer reading and rereading that same life story of quiet misery because even though it's depressing as hell with a bad ending, it's familiar. It seems to be every man's story, and many men confront themselves in that shared common misery. But there's a better way. Instead, learn to write your own life story with an unknown ending and enjoy every single page. So embracing rational egoism will not be easy. The altruism we were all raised on is deeply ingrained and tough to undo, but you must consciously do it. No exceptions. Otherwise, you're going right back to the Matrix. If you try to do it subconsciously or half-assed, you'll soon experience a life of volatility, smooth sailing one day, maelstrom the next. The worst part is you'll find it pleasurable. After all, you know how to run dread on your wife, and extinguishing each garbage fire feels like a victory until the next one. Sisyphus would be proud if he didn't have other things to do. Of course, you think these are your Heraclean tasks, so you don't notice it's the same boulder every time. No one has any stake in your religious beliefs. You can be as rational or irrational as you want. Nobody has any stake in your success or happiness either. But the truth is the truth. You ditch the altruism or you get eaten by it, fast or slow. So, if you want to answer to the question, what do I want? You first have to ask yourself, if you want to ask yourself the question, what do I do next? Well, then you first have to ask yourself, what is it I want? There we go. All right, I'm done reading my book. That hurts my soul.
We know
I hate
that
reading
these
my own
videos
stuff.
really prey on vulnerable.
Get out of the way, Emily. Pat Stedman's Polish passport. Thank you very much, sir. Hey, if we're lucky, Stedman's trial is on right now, isn't it? And if he gets off, you get to go back to your master and you guys get to move to Poland with your new family. It'd be great. Spent 50 on an SOS cast super chat that was barely read, a show where I get barely mildly entertained but learn jack. Instead, I could have bought a gold-plated copy of Ryan's new book, Don't Eat Paint Boys. Well, thank you, sir. It's nice to know that there's more content here than the Sauce Cast. Is that the Adam Sosnick guy? I think so. I hate to say it when you guys talk about Manosphere stuff. I'm like, who the fuck is this? I don't know anybody. I don't watch Manosphere content. I don't even care about it. It's like the cobbler has the worst shoes situation here, totally. I appreciate the kind words, though. You've been around for a while, and I love the fact that you just have, like, your whole account is a running joke that's, like, 3 years old, and it's still just as funny today as it was then. Then Edge here, he's about a third of the way into the book. Excellent stuff. My only gripe is Kindle does not double space for paragraphs. Fish shake and Amazon. Yeah, that's another thing that's weird. So... this is why I strongly suggest the paperback. Like, obviously, I'm sitting here staring at the graphic design. Here, we'll go back to it. I'll walk through what I'm talking about. So when you make the book, there's a whole bunch to it. Like, obviously, you got your setups for your pages and that, and you can see. But everything has a flow to it, right? Like, the whole point of a book is you want somebody's eyes to have as easy a time as possible reading it. If you've ever noticed there's a book that's not too difficult, but it's impossible to read, like it hurts to read or your brain gets tired, more often than not, it's not because of the content. It's because the layout is hurting the eyes. Now, just simple examples here. This here, these typefaces, I'll use the bold version. This is called Adobe Caslon. And Caslon is a typeface that was built in the 1600s. Most books you read are done in Caslon. It is the basic bitch text. As you can see, it's got a couple qualities. If you'll notice, do you see how, like, can I zoom in? Not on this, but do you see how, there we go, the O. You see the center of the O? Like, that circle isn't just straight and circular. It's kind of flattened and it tilts a little bit, right? That tilt is done on purpose. That is the maximum amount of tilt you want to let the letters have just enough variety that you can pick them out easily. It's actually easier on the eyes. You can see this yourself if you go into your thing, and like Times New Roman is like a horrible version of, they're called Old English fonts, right? And then the serifs at the end here, these little flares here, those little pieces at the top, those little pieces at the bottom, those are there because when you're reading, you don't actually read T-A-B-L-E. You read table, single word. Those serifs make the whole thing flow together, so it's easier for you to recognize this word for what it is, this statement for what it is, and you don't actually have to focus. So you have to give micro amounts of extra focus if the font makes no sense. I don't want to change it because I don't want to end up causing issues with the manuscript because I still have to do the hardcover, but you'll notice this. If you pick a stupid font, it's actually harder to read after a long period of time. So little things like that. And the idea is I wanted this one to be maximum easiness on your eyes and easiness to read. So I didn't play around being very, pretentious with the typeface choices to give you a certain vibe or a certain thing. I'm like, no, I want this to be strictly content, zero fluff, zero self-congratulation, no visual anything. It's the Bud Light of reading, Like you can have a nice strong IPA, but you can't drink 12 of them in a day. But you can drink Bud Light all fucking day. If you don't believe me, just go ask Rob. Bish, it's a sign of mental health to max know only half of the swamp people. Fair. And most of the time too, when I shit on them, I don't actually know what I'm talking about. I just kind of take a guess and it's always right. So little things like that. And then how you always make sure, like you don't end a paragraph and have one last line on a second page. Like you have to have a certain few here because if you only have one line at the end of a page, the person kind of forgets what the other thing was about. And so they have to mentally think back and keep the stuff in their head. All these little details here can make a difference. Over the course of 100 pages, orphan lines, widowed lines, they all prevent legibility. The typeface choices. Something as small here is like this big white space. This actually exists purposefully to segment whatever you just finished reading. When you finish reading a chapter, it's always on the right page, and there's always this 2-inch space at the top. The idea then is it's like a palate cleanser. Okay, we're on to a different concept, and so I get to clear my head and think about something different. Little things like that. So then when you're reading this, you're not confused. Like as I'm reading this, what does this have to do with what I was just reading? And it has nothing to do with what you're just reading. It's a whole different idea. This space here primes your brain to like clear your thought. We're going to talk about something different. Oh, good. Same thing with the paragraphs. And this is what you can't do with Kindle. Kindle's like, don't fuck with our process. It's all going to be stripped down for Kindle anyway, so you might as well just make it the default so you can see what it's actually going to look like on the device. Eventually, Katie, I just hate doing it. I hate looking at the thing, so it's going to be a bit. I'll probably have it done in like a couple weeks. So little things like that. So a paragraph is essentially a single idea. A sentence is a single idea. So periods are always there to like, okay, that thought stopped, this idea starts. Paragraphs are a way of like onto a different set of ideas. All these little things, if you space it properly, if you segment your information, it's all really just a way of organizing data. And that's what desktop publishing is, the art of doing that. Yeah, letting the book breathe is a good way to describe it. So case in point, when you're reading Rollo's forward, you get all the way to here. Okay, there's a space, let your head clear. Let your head clear because the left side of the page is always harder than the right side to start on things. So you always make a new chapter on the right side of a page. Fresh and Fit read the cover of Rational Mail, then just ran with the idea that emotional men love to spend their money on worthless things. They didn't read the Rational Mail. Like I said, 2 Rollo live streams and they know what they're doing. To be fair, Rollo did the heavy lifting for those guys and they basically clout jacked his ideas, which is kind of annoying. But then same thing. So you clear your head, you're on to the next section, you read through. Oh, it's good. Oh, okay, clear the thought, next section. All little things like this. And then everything has to have a structure to it. Case in point, if I'm picking a quote from somebody, it needs to look fundamentally different than this stuff. Now, quotes are small, so a good way of differentiating them is what is like italicizing it. Because this, reading it in italics, pain in the ass. It actually does hurt your eyes if you're doing it for too long. But for a small thing, it's a good way to change the pace. Like, when you're watching a movie and then all of a sudden like heavy metal starts, there's going to be a fight scene. It's like a leitmotif, but for your eyes. Now, I'm going to stop nerding out on this stuff. We're going to go back to the normal stuff. The point of this is the paperback is absolutely better. And Rollo was absolutely right when he says this, where he's like, when you're writing, and this is his best advice for me, write the card copy first and then convert it to Kindle. Which sucks because I know most people, honestly, it's like 70-30 Kindle to book. Can you explain the design of the cover? Yeah, we can go through that too. I'll have to pull it up though. Yeah, so most people get the Kindle, which I get, and it's fine, and it's easy, and it's got the device in that, but the physical copy, like there's so many other smaller choices that I would argue, and you guys can test this and get back to me. If you read the paperback of any book, not just mine, but definitely read mine, and the Kindle version, you will walk away from each one with a completely different impression. Well, not completely, but definitely a different impression. Like, do you ever watch those movie mashups where they do like, they pick like a comedy, like Old School, and like then they frame it as if it's like a horror movie, or they take like Scream, the horror movie, and they make it out to be like a romantic comedy. And it's funny that just by changing the editing and adding some different leitmotif musics in the background, you can completely change the tone of a film. Same thing with that. And that's why I really enjoy graphic design. I really do. All right, where is it? Frame cover comp. I think it's frame book 2. It's a big file, so. Yeah, there she is. No, wait, that's not it. Close that. Frame book 2. No, that was it. Oh, I know why. I saved it in the thing. I've gotten very good at backing up and archiving my work after losing 30% of the manuscript before. Yeah, what can I say? There it is. Frame cover comp. Oh, no, wait, that's the Kindle one. Jesus, I'm dying here, boys. Why is he just mumbling to himself? I'm mumbling to myself because you got me off script, God damn it. Where did I put it? Oh, did I call it a comprehensive? Comprehensive is a word, by the way. It's almost like a proof copy. Anyways. Logo, frame, drawing, fuck files, gaming, logo, double header. Maybe it is this one. Oh, it is this one. All right. There we go. So I'll walk you through the cover now. Let's do some nerdy... Who's ready for graphic design? No, not me. I hate that. All right, so... Reading paperback, that's for boomers. Do you plan on making an audiobook? Yeah, I'm going to do the audiobook. You have to finish the book first because ACX is very specific that they don't want any deviations from the script. So I can't even start the audiobook until there's 0 changes to be made on the book. All right, so go back to the thing. So, and also, for the cover design. So this is graphic design. This is another thing I used to do before I was in the military. And I love this nerdy shit. It's like commerce and art mixed together, right? Ben Litch, thank you, sir, for the $10 super chat. Congrats on the new Red Pill manifesto. Jesus. I have 2 Murphy articles. Sledging aside. Have 2 Jack... Oh. I don't want to talk about the cuck article. Sledging aside, I'll be adding this to my reading list, and thanks for keeping the Manosphere crap and the grounded perspective. Well, I do what I can. I mean, Manosphere Morning is still me just being like a shit-talking asshole, so... Anyways, so back to the cover design. Fucking guy. Is... actually, Amazon is nice that they give you their specifications. Normally you would have to talk to a print shop about this stuff, but you give them the sizing of your book you want, 6x9 in my case. You give them the amount of pages you're going to have in your book. So once you get a final page count, you put it in there, and they'll give you an automatic generated template. And this is the template here. So, and Kindle is actually deceptive in that this template's actually not correct. So you're going to have to adjust it once you go through their automated checks, because you'll find that the differences are like a couple, 2 or 3 millimeters here and there, which makes a huge difference. But so you have the red area here. Red area it's not important space. So anything you have here, you have to be willing to let it cut off left or right a little bit, because it's never going to be perfect every time, right? Then there's this first black line, and this part out here is called the bleed. If you don't have a bleed, then there's always going to be white borders at the edge of everything. So if you want just like a solid color as a border or picture, you put the picture outside of the bleed and then realize that everything inside of the bleed is where the cut happens. The inside red line here is the part of the bleed that you have to expect. Like the bleed could go back and forth along this line anywhere, and you just have to be okay with that. Then you get the white space here is the size, like that's the readable space of your book. This piece here changes depending on the thickness of your book. That's the spine. You have your template here. You have to be aware that the barcode is going to be here with this kind of sizing specifications. And so don't put anything that the user needs to see there because it's going to be blocked. Then you get to your image. Now, there's a couple choices you have to make at the beginning. I talked with Delicious Tacos, and I was talking, like, most people put like ads for the book in the back, like, oh, New York Times said this is great, and it said this, and this, and this, and this. And he's like, nobody cares about that shit. Just leave it blank. And I'm like, fair enough. So you go with you have to go, there's a couple major decisions, and then you start big and you work down from there. So the big one is the color you want your book, the typeface you want to use, and the layout. And ideally what you do is you build what's called 20 comprehensives. So I've done 20 covers, different typefaces, different fonts, different colors. And then you narrow it down to 5 out of the 20. It doesn't matter. Just brainstorm everything. I had like a whole list of them. And then you narrow it down to 5. Of those 5, you expand those into 20 more versions. And then you narrow that down to 3. And so you just keep expanding. And you look at the various decisions, like, is it readable? Is it legible? Does it stand out from the competition in the bookstore? Is it, and ideally what you want is, you want the book to have something that sounds like it's weird. Like in this case, you see paint being poured onto the floor. What the hell does that have to do with anything? And then as you read the book, you understand the idea of don't eat paint. And so it's almost like an inside joke that after you read the book, you understand. It's like Fight Club has like a bar of soap. You're like, why does Fight Club have a bar of soap on the front? And then once you realize, oh, the soap, okay, I get it now. And again, a lot of those choices you make here are going to matter. It's going to set expectations subconsciously to people too. Hyena the Knave, $3 Australian super chat. Thank you. At what stage would you recommend your book? Honestly, it's 101. It's absolutely the beginning. If you don't have frame, you have nothing. So I would recommend it right at the start. Because it's basically all the start stuff that I had taken to put it together. So if that helps you. But yeah, I would put it fundamental. There's no jargon in it. Like you saw me reading the sections there. Do you see me talking about hypergamy and AWALT and all the fucking buzzwords? Like, no. If at all possible, I don't use any buzzwords and I explain something as if you've never heard it before. Okay, so the choices you make is you set expectations. In this case, the font I picked here, what's it called? I can't remember. Hold on a sec, I'll find it. All right, I can move stuff around, I guess. Typeface, Gobold Bold. I liked it because I wanted something that was compressed and very thick. Like if you notice, if you were to look at it as if it was a shape, it's like a very thick chunk of text. It's not delicate, it's very solid. And the idea it's compressed. So that's why by reading this, it's like you get the impression that, okay, the title, it's compressed. It's trying to fit everything into as condensed a space as possible. So it's not going to be a lot of fluff. It's thick and it's bold. So it's easy to see. It's easy to learn. It's volume 1. So you know there's going to be a second one coming, or at least a second one. Will there be sidebar videos for the chapters? Probably not. It's technically not part of the sidebar, so I'm not going to add it. The sidebar is actually a specific thing. Oh yeah, impact. Actually, that's the funny thing. Here, I'll show you that. But I went through probably like 100 choices. But here, I'll use impact. I'll show you how stupid it looks. And this is why font choices matter. Do you see though? Impact, it's X height is wrong. So it makes it a more squat font. It makes it kind of bulky and it's not compressed. Plus the fact that everybody recognizes it. So it has kind of like but it gives the impression that, oh, he just grabbed one of the basic bitch fonts from Microsoft, which shows that you're not putting any care and thought into it. Dark Knight Devsir, 2 Cuck article super chat, thank you. Got some takeout last night and saw a guy watching Fresh and Fit. He said he was learning something. Told him it was entertainment. If you want to learn, read Red Pill prerequisite books and articles for substance. Jesus, look at this. The shit posting has gone to the real world. Hey, I hope you like it entertained. Good on you though, Dev. But that's the thing. And then yellow was the color I went with for the title here because I was looking through all the competition and first off, most educational books, like textbooks and that, come in yellow. Like I look at my own library, most of the things that had to do with learning things are yellow colored. So I like the idea of like getting that together. You look at most of the books that are in the sphere, and it's always a picture of a dude in it's like written like a fucking female fan fiction, where it's always a guy in a suit with abs and a girl getting ready to suck his dick with handcuffs on. That's everybody's book. It's always in black and always in red, which is weird because that's like the 50 Shades of Grey thing. So I'm like, good, it stands out from those. So if you're reading it, and this is what Peterson would call like different levels of resolution, right? If you're looking through all these books, you see, okay, chick with lipstick there, dude with a suit there, chick with lipstick there. You see Rollos, which is like a leather-bound book, which is made to be like a timeless thing. You're like, in this one, it's like, no pretense. Here, learn, fuck you. You're like, oh, okay, it stands out. It might be enough to grab some eyes. Technically, the spine, I designed it so it matches fuck files. So if you had them together on a bookshelf, they should look like a series. That's just a choice on my side. But then if you just have a yellow book with the thing, it looks like a basic bitch thing. And it was originally pretty over-engineered. I had like, what do they call it? A dual lithograph in the background, but it looked over-engineered. So in this case, and there's something I always do with my books. 1 second, I'll lock that up. There's actually a texture. Oh yeah, there it is. So there's a texture that it comes with. Now I gotta... The program here is called Inkscape, by the way. It's kind of like Adobe Illustrator, but you don't have to pay a monthly fee. There it is. The idea of a painted texture. So, and this is like subtle. You probably won't even catch on this. But the idea here of like the painting being done, it's like it's something you're making. Like there's work involved. It's a creative process and you have to do things. And so that's why that's designed like that. But it's subtle. You don't even notice you're doing it. Then the next one is, I always do this. I don't know why, for the back. I like to give it a little bit of something. Oh, wait a minute. What am I? Oh, not you. Lock that. This is just a texture like film grain. And I just like film grain. It makes something look older, more used. I like the idea of the book looking like it's a working book. It's not one that you want to keep in a glass case. It's one that's all fucking beat up on the windowsill, right? There's the color. Oh, I know why, because I can't. I'm trying to grab something specific here I want to show you guys. You know what? I just won't save it, whatever. There she is. All right. I always love to do this in the back. I take like a very, very faint, almost incomprehensible. So technically, the fuck MRP stuff I read, it's on the back cover. I like it. It gives a little bit of texture and it kind of like, it just lets you know there's like hidden shit in there. It's almost like a personal choice where it's like, hey, just so you know, like, you know, the fucking, oh, there's a mystery of the universe. And it's like, it's a cheeky thing, but whatever. And then the reference to paint. There's actually a bunch of layers here because the original one, when we were running through the comprehensive, they were too pink. Like that's the original color. And I liked the pink, but it just didn't mesh too well. So I did some filtering for it and eventually got it to that nice deep red that's specific to this. So it's different from this, but not so different that it looks out of place. So that's how you design a cover. Now there's no right answer to it. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the Watchmen one. And that's the thing, like you're going to find, like nobody's ever truly original. Like I didn't even think of Watchmen, but I'm pretty sure that had some kind of influence anyways. Let's go back to normal here. Thank you. And so this is why I actually like doing this. And this is why I will never not be proud of this book. Because like everything, and I like this too, just explaining this to you. It's letting you know the process of the book, deliberate action. Like nothing is a fucking accident, you know? And this absolutely applies to frame more than anything. When you're sitting there dealing with your wife, why are you fogging? Why are you using Amuse Mastery? Why are you agreeing and amplifying? When you're working on your style, like there's a whole section in there just on like the right cologne to wear. Like it's really nitty gritty details. How many calories do you burn on this thing? What different lifting programs do you use? Why is the purpose of them? And it's not so much that, you know, strong lifts 5x5 is the best. No, there's a reason you use it. It's because it's simple, it's consistent, and no matter what your fitness goals are, starting with strong lifts will get you there. There's references to Mad Cow, all this other kind of stuff. Same thing with food. Why are you shoving that thing into your fuckhole? Well, it's because it tastes good. It's like, no, don't worry about, like, tasting good is good. It's good to eat good food, but why are you eating that? And it's just everything. Like at the beginning, it's easy. It's all physical stuff, right? So it's like, why are you lifting weights? Why are you like? How do you avoid injury? How do you dress so you're more more consistent communicating about what you want to do? What kind of cologne? Like, why do you want to smell a certain way? Yeah, basically shower maxing. And part of it is a joke. I make a reference to was it David D'Angelo? Carl talked about it. How he realized after doing pickup conferences for like 10 years, he's like, all right, I have to basically put a part in this on how to wash your balls. And I'm like, you know what? I like the idea of like no detail is left unlisted because most guys have like 80% of their shit together. But there's always like a 20% that you could work on, that you can fix. Some guys are less, but most guys are averagely good at everything, but not exceptional at everything, right? But the problem is everybody's got a different 20% of things you don't know. So you basically have to give a guy a piece of material that's like, hey, 80% of this stuff you already know, and you're wondering, why the fuck is this guy telling it to me again? But there'll be 20% somewhere in there that you're like, oh shit, I never thought of that. But because everybody's got a different one, you got to go through everything. But like I said here, just the choice of like, what font do I use? The idea of the color of the paint in the background. That band. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention on there too. There's a photograph in the background of me sailing, which you can't really tell, and it's been like resized, so you can't really tell. But there's still a horizon in the back of it, just a very subtle one. And just I like that for just a little bit of consistency, like visual interest, just making it like somewhat dynamic. There used to be a lot more, but the girl and I talked about it and it was kind of over-engineered, so we scaled it back a lot. But you know what I mean? So by reading the book, you want to put that attention to detail and level of interest in your own self-worth, that you're never surprised by anything. You know? A lot of times your wife will talk to you and be like, oh, why the fuck did you do that? And you don't know what to say. And you're like, I just sit here like an idiot and I don't know what to say. And I shut the fuck up. And that's a good strategy. But ideally, you should never get the, why the fuck did you do that? And you know why you did it, but you're not going to argue the point. But that's the thing. When you're talking about like averagely exceptional, everybody wants to be the top G, you know? Everybody wants to be the millionaire. I want to be 100%. If you're not first, you're last. And it's like, dude, maybe you can be. Maybe. But I'll tell you right now, most people are average by definition. If you want to be a top tier man, just be better than average. And what do average people not do? Have deliberate consistency in their life. Have a level of charm, a level of sophistication. They adapt to the environment as it is. They're attractive. They're not unattractive. They don't put up with shit unless they decide consciously to put up with shit. And so it's just like that deliberate life choice is the difference between a guy like a top 20% man and not. And then everybody's like, oh, well, the trick to make millions of dollars is this. Like, how about this? How about a consistent income that you won't get fired on because you tried to hit on the HR specialist, you know, like shit like that. Yeah, being below average is the new average. And so my idea is I'll get you to the 20% right there. Whatever you do past there, no guru is going to be able to tell you how to go from the top 20% to the top 1%. That's something you have to figure out on your own, but I'll get you there. I mean, you'll get you there, but I'll show you how other guys got there. And that's when guys realize, like, it's not about the big event. It's not about getting that big deal. It's not about making your first million. It's about every day getting that little bit more deliberate done to solve that one problem you've been trying to solve, to get this thing done, to be in a position where, at the very least, if you don't make money, you're not losing money. And I don't mean this as a slight. I'm just going to use this. Like, I love John. You know this. But you remember John, his big things like, bam, $2 million, Gumroad course, millionaire now, Louis Vuitton, everything, great. And then hadn't lost like 2 million, or like, I don't know how many million he made altogether, but I know he made at least a couple million. And then he lost like 2 million in crypto. So at that point, yes, he's got some great skills out of that, but what was the point of making $2 million if you're just going to lose it? Now, it's a fundamental, he's like, I'll make it again, fuck it. And that's one way to go about it. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying a better approach to take that's more consistent is, would you rather make $2 million and then lose $2 million, or make $1 million and keep it? You know what I mean? Or hell, make $100,000 and keep it. Which guy is better off at the end? And it's that, and I know it sounds like risk aversion, but I'm just talking about consistency, you know? And so that's the point of it. Anyways, we're going to take a break. I actually got I got my Christmas gift this year and I wanted to show it to you guys. So let's do the podcast one. I'll talk 1 second.
A bigger red flag than a white guy with a podcast. I'll wait.
I am not impressed. I will have you know, I'm like 80% white. The podcast is goddamn good, and I don't want you anyway. You got random Iroquois art and not art on your walls. You're not my type, sir. Or madam. I don't know, you're allowed to say anymore? I noticed I blink very expressively. All right, so I was checking the mail, and I got this. I'm like, what the heck is this? Who is this? And I'm like, oh. And I thought I would open it live for you guys. And I think you're going to like what it is. I got to make sure there's no titties on it first before I open it up for you. I don't think there is, but... Oh, shit, son. Look at this. Brian Pillman Jr. Thank you, Ryan, for all your wisdom. Happy holidays. Dude, this is going on the wall. I used to watch his dad all the time. It's nice. We've been talking behind the scenes. He's like, yeah, I'll hook you up. I'm like, oh, you don't have to. And he did. It'll be sweet. Anyways, the pro wrestler in me is enjoying himself. But, all right, that's fine. So here's the next part of the thing. So it's released. Congratulations. Happy birthday to me. Let's have a wet one on me. 10:30? It's 11 o'clock somewhere. Whatever. Fuck, I haven't drank one of these in so long. Where's the opening thing? All right, whatever. Let's just tough guy it. Good enough. So now we're just going to chill. We're going to do some bants, and then we're going to get ready, because pretty soon we're going to have to go to... just a finger, though. Just a finger. Anyways, this is heartfelt. Like, not Jack Murphy heartfelt, but real heartfelt. Red or Tears is going on the wall. It's 2 a.m. in Sydney. Oh, thank God. Heartfelt, thank you guys. Honestly, it's been a long year and a half. It's been a long 2023. And as much as I say hate your audience a little bit, I really do appreciate you guys. Like, one, no autism in the chat. I don't ever hate coming on stream. Even with Billy starting shit in here, pretending to be another trap. Not only do you guys... Pillman was Stampede Wrestling. Love that guy. Oh, yeah, me too. I mean, it's mid-tier. It's only like it's like a $55 bottle. It's Irish, right? And to be fair, I actually like the taste of Jameson better. But just the irony of a drink called Writer's Tears. I'm like, I fucking hate writing. Yeah. I have seen it. But yeah, you guys have no autism. You're generally, like, even those of you who haven't put in the work yet and you just like the entertainment things of it, you're generally the kind of person that I wouldn't be, like, embarrassed to talk about you or, like, know you in public, right? So it's just nice to see well-adjusted people on the internet. And I know it's like, what a weird thing. He says I'm not retarded. And I'm like, yeah, well, on the internet, that's a flex. That's top G. The G is for retarded. Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. Are you familiar with the book, The Basic Laws of Human Stupidity by Carlo Cipolla? I have not heard of this. I tell you what, I will, I'll add a copy. I've actually got to read one about the Laurentian elite. I'm starting to, like, pay more attention to Canadian politics now, which is my own fault, but there's a bunch of good books that have kind of been written about it. Oh, there we go. I see it. So what is this one? The 5 laws that confirm our worst fears. Stupid people can and do rule the world. Sounds like some Talib thing. Are you finally telling us I love you? No, I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire, Tuber. You or your biscuits or crumpets. No, it's like there is an appreciation here. It's a two-sided thing. Like I hate parasitic relationships. The idea you guys will know everything about me, I'll know nothing about you, and that can kind of lead to some mental issues, especially fucking e-girls. They get that all the time. But you guys kind of understand it. Like, my job is to here to inform and entertain you, and your job is to here to make it worth my time to do so. And it's a nice arrangement. It works out well. You guys are a swell group of guys to work with, even the shitty ones. Proof that I have a heart. Well, in fairness, it's not that I have a heart. I just never want to show up to work and be that fucking guy, you know? I always hated that. Even the military, my buddy was like, when I quit, and everybody's like, wow, Ryan quit. Did you hear that? He goes, dude, you know he never liked it here, right? It's like, yeah, but he was so good at his job. It's like, yeah, he just never wanted to come to work and be like that guy. And there's a specific that guy. I can't tell you what, but he did get arrested for, like, coke and stuff. That guy was so lazy, which is weird. You figure coke would make you like a more energated worker, you know? Actually, I'm parasitic. No. So it's good. So I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. The what year is it? 2023. The Coppola book is only 96 pages. Oh, it is? Where is it? How many pages is this fucking book? Where's the name? Where's the show? It used to show you on the right in the beginning. There's only a hardcover and a Kindle. All right, I give up. All abstract examples. Uh-oh. We're on one of those ones. Fair enough. All right, I don't know, whatever. At the very least, I'll give it a sample and see if it works. Yeah, being consistently reliable is a dead concept. Of course it is. Everybody's just scavenging the corp. The West is on a decline, so everybody's just trying to steal from as many people as possible. It's like doing your job competently is a niche industry now, which is fair. It earns a good living. I may not be able to buy a couple Bugattis, but at the same time, I don't have to pay for bail either. So, you got to pick what you do. Got to cut and run, not at the point where I'm comfortable benching to Ryan's voice. Do what you do, stripper. It could be worse. I could have the same voice as an ex-wife, right? Silver Bishop, €5, 1 cent super chat. Coach's journey to Switched On started with pro wrestling, which most people could learn a lesson on kayfabe too. I do have a video on it. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go watch the kayfabe video, where you realize, honestly, Evo Psych and sexual selection theory has been like a great boon for the red pill. And once signaling theory kind of makes its moment here, people will kind of realize, like case in point, the Tate thing that just happened. All of it, 100% kayfabe. Like the fact that I have intimate knowledge of what's really going on, and then seeing the content creators that, you don't trust the mainstream media, but you trust me. And I'm watching them, I'm like, holy shit. Like the pizza box nonsense, the they're coming for your masculinity girls nonsense. I'm just like, these people are just as bad as like NBC or CBC or whatever the hell you want to call it. Anyway, so some final things. So the paperback is out. If you're not, and the Kindle is out. If you don't see it in your region, just give it a bit. It just got added to the bookstore, and I don't know how AWS's servers work, but it eventually will make its way to you. Ryan, you thought of getting into space engineers for the gaming channel? Minecraft, but space physics? You saw me doing engineering. I do not think like an engineer. That's why Minecraft works, is when you place a block, gravity no longer affects it. But we'll see. There's always an option. There's a big list of things that I've got to get to, so I'll give it a shot. The hardcover book, I will do one because there actually is interest, which I didn't think there would be. It's going to take me a bit because I'm taking a bit of a break from looking at that fucking book because I'm fucking tired of it. And in the new year, probably like, 2 weeks or so, I'll start on the audiobook. I'll make sure to like publish the hardcover beforehand. It shouldn't take too long if you're really gunning for that. Apparently I have the option. I've never tried it before, so no promises, but I will make the effort. If they give you the option for it, I'll just do it. And then the audiobook. So it should be probably a month for recording and post-processing, a month for the ACX review process, and then another month just in case something goes wrong. So expect it by March. Give yourself a break. And and then when that's done, I'm not looking at the other book until I get bored again. I'm probably going to get back to the content on YouTube. Like, I still have some more stuff on the Sidebar series. I got to do 48 Laws of Power. There's a couple very influential posts to do. I might even bring back the On Point series. I didn't realize you were such a fan of, like, me laughing at Royce's work. Acid-free archival paper. We'll see. I got the electronic copy. So if it ever gets... I tell you what. If it ever gets to the point that this thing actually becomes a big deal, I'll worry about the archival paper and shit like that. But I'm not going to pretend like... I just recreated the Bible. It's like, yeah, slow down. I ain't shit, man. And that's okay. Anywho, so that's it. Let me close that. Actually, I got to keep that open. I'm going to be sending links all day on fucking Rolo's channel for his thing. Is there any closing thoughts from you guys? I'm going to put an ad while you type and I look.
I love the way girls smell. I love how they always make sure, by and large, they shower. And they just have an amazing smell to them in general.
All right, so last questions. Is the relationship breakdown series done? Yeah, it wasn't really a series. It was more just me grabbing field reports and reporting on them. It made it to about 50, 60 episodes, and I'm like, that's good. I try to keep things about 50 to 60, and then I move on to something else. Because it's like a different format. It's just different editing. I like the idea that there's like a series. I don't want to just drag on for forever. Red Pill Coffee. That one is, it's not done. That's as I find stuff that interests me. Red Pill Coffee is more just me riffing with you guys on specific things, but it's not so much like a Red Pill canonical thing. It's more like a Ryan canonical thing. I love the way girls smell. Lloyd's Coffee. Yeah, and Lloyd's Coffee, there's not, like, I probably could refine that. If you guys don't know what that reference is, Lloyd's Coffee House was where the Scottish Enlightenment came through. And the big thing that did it was, one, Europe switching from a beer diet to a coffee diet. So everybody stopped being drunk. And then this coffee house, because coffee was coming everywhere and it was mass produced, is that everybody could go to the same coffee house and get the same coffee for a pence, right? So you would have sheep herders and businessmen and lawyers and lords, and everybody was drinking at the same place. And they all started swapping notes with each other. And that's how the Scottish Enlightenment kind of happened. So if it was ever something that didn't really fit into a category, but I just like the idea of learning something from another guy, I would call it just Lloyd's Coffee House. But I suppose I could give it like a proper look through, but we'll see. Except for girl farts, peacocking, fair enough. Anyways, where is that intro tune? Let's get that on there. Let's start doing the hey, welcome to the channel. Do the soft, soothing voices. Ryan's giving you his Canadian soft voice. Get you out of the thing. Actually, no, let's do it proper. Let's do it proper, yeah. Simply awesome, sir. 11-pound super chat. Thank you very much. Let's turn this down a bit. I just bought the book and read the foreword. The definition of RP as a praxeology was necessary. We'll read the rest as soon as possible. Special thanks for saving lives. Thank you. Oh, dude. The foreword is written by Rollo. He did that as a solid, which is awesome. So wait till you get to the part that I wrote. It's going to be way better. Yeah, the Scottish Enlightenment brought to you by caffeine. Basically, the hangover coffee. Are you going to do the Manosphere book review, Gumroad review, course sales? Yeah, probably. It's just such a low priority. I'm not looking forward to it. So, anyways, guys, when this is done, it should take you directly to the New Year's show. So looking forward to it. I'll catch you guys over there, man. Whatever chats you have, I'll respond, but I won't be able to say anything. Cheers.